157 pages to say what we already knew. Elijah McClain should have never been detained by police in the first place. And almost everything officers did afterwards was flawed. Good evening, and thanks for watching Denver 7. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Shannon Ogden. Glad you're with us tonight. An independent commission by the city of Aurora finds that police had no legal basis to stop the 23-year-old. The report also questions the use of ketamine and finds Aurora Police Department's initial investigation to be woefully lacking.
Denver 7's Gary Brode and Jennifer Kovaleski are with us tonight to cover the recommendations this report provides and the reaction it's receiving. And we'll start with Jen.
And Elijah McClain's mother told me that she started crying when she first read this report. Relieved the truth is finally coming out. The report raises serious questions about the roles of both police and medics in McClain's death and the investigation that followed. The city of Aurora just released this independent review into Elijah McClain's death. It comes more than a year and a half since he died in Aurora police custody. An interaction with officers captured on body cam video.
No, I am an introvert.
The 153-page report calls the investigation after his death flawed, going so far as to say the interviews, major crimes conducted with the involved officers were neither probing nor objective. And, at times, questions appeared designed with, quote, magic language to exonerate the officers.
Everything that they did to cover up their tracks is appalling. It's shameful for Aurora, Colorado.
Shanine McClain is Elijah's mother. She says the report details much of what they already knew, but says it means her son can no longer be called a suspect.
It proves that he is a good person. It proves that he does have a good character, and it proves that the police were totally out of line.
The report found police never should have stopped McClain that night back in August of 2019. It said officers and the person who called 911 never identified a crime. But seconds after police arrived, they used force on McClain.
Yo, let go of me.
Attempting 2 carotid holds. Shortly after, medics injected him with a heavy dose of ketamine, a dose our investigations uncovered, and the report confirms was way too much for McClain's weight.
That's really why I wanted to have this review done.
Councilman Curtis Gardner put a temporary ban on the use of the sedative in Aurora. He wanted to wait until the findings of this report. Do you plan to continue the moratorium?
I think it's too early to say.
I love him and I miss him.
McClain's dad, LaWayne Mosley, says they miss him every day. He and his attorney, Mari Newman, say they hope someone is held accountable for his son's death.
Will eventually lead to not just the termination of the officers and medics who murdered Elijah McClain, but criminal indictments.
Happy that somebody else sees that they got a problem in Aurora.
The 3 officers involved were never disciplined for their actions that night. This investigation is one of many happening throughout the state. Colorado's Attorney General recently launched a grand jury investigation. The FBI is also reviewing the case. I'm Denver 7 investigator Jennifer Kovaleski.
And Aurora City Council is receiving a briefing on this report as we speak, and we will have their thoughts tonight on Denver 7 News at 10. Jen, thank you.
And though the behavior recounted here is alarming, it's not particularly surprising to anybody who's followed the investigation or even watched the video of McClain's detainment. Gary Brode has that part of the story tonight. Gary?
Shannon, Ann, at the top of the show, you said it exactly right. 153 pages simply to confirm what members of the community have been saying now for a year and a half, which is why there's very little optimism much will be done as a result of this investigation. For Lindsay Minter, it's difficult to get through the details in the independent death investigation of Elijah McClain.
When I first, briefly glanced at the report, I got enraged all over again. That anger seared up in me just like it did when we first heard about Elijah's death.
It's not just Elijah she feels for.
And I can't imagine what the family, what Miss Shanine McClain is thinking every time this wound gets reopened and reopened, knowing that she has still not received justice for her child.
The reality is that Elijah McClain was murdered. We all know this.
Candace Bailey believes the lengthy investigation was a waste of time and taxpayer money. She also doubts much will change as a result.
Recommendations give a blueprint of the things that would effectively change the lives of everyday people. And then it allows you to crush that because you don't have to take a recommendation.
That report was released Monday. Aurora police won't make a public comment on it for 24 hours. And that doesn't sit well with Colorado Criminal Justice Reform Coalition member Leanne Wheeler.
Unfortunately, the Aurora Police Department has lost all of its goodwill in Black community with regard to why they say or do anything and the timing of the things that they say and do. So there's a phenomenal lack of trust.
And when I was speaking to Candace Bailey, the topic of protest came up, and she put it like this: why do we have to protest right now after such concrete evidence comes out? When leadership sees something like this, why can't action simply be taken? Reporting live here in Aurora, Gary Brode, Denver 7.